The massive alien ship hung in space above Earth like a metal moon, its dark hull stretching for miles in every direction. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of the ship called Death's Hand, his reptilian eyes studying the small blue planet below. His scales were dark green and covered in scars from 1,000 battles across the galaxy. For 300 years, Kethvar had delivered the same message to countless worlds. Some planets tried to fight. Others begged for mercy. A few attempted to bargain. But in the end, they all gave in to the hegemony's demands. Today would be no different. Open communication channels to the human world, Kethvar ordered his crew. The bridge fell silent as alien warriors prepared to witness another conquest. The transmission began, and Kethvar's voice boomed across every radio, television, and communication device on Earth. His words were cold and final, spoken in perfect English that his translators had learned from intercepted human broadcasts. Humans of the third planet, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Hegemony Fleet. For 10,000 years, we have ruled the galaxy. 1,000 worlds pay tribute to our empire. Today, you join them. On Earth, millions of people stopped what they were doing to listen. In offices, homes, schools, and streets, humans stared at screens showing the enormous alien vessel blocking out the sun. You will give us 30% of all your resources, Kethvar continued. Your metals, your food, your energy. You will also give us 10% of your population to serve as workers in our empire. You have 72 hours to agree to these terms. The Admiral paused, letting his words sink in. He had given this speech so many times he could recite it in his sleep. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities one by one. Your oceans will boil. Your mountains will turn to glass. Every living thing on your world will die. This is not a negotiation. This is reality. The hegemony takes what it wants. The transmission ended, and Kethvar settled back into his command chair. Around him, his officers began preparing for the usual response. Some worlds tried to contact other planets for help. Others attempted to hide their population in underground bunkers. The smart ones started gathering the demanded resources immediately. But the human response was different from the start. Instead of panic or desperate messages, Earth's communication came from a simple government building in Geneva. The human who appeared on screen was unremarkable looking. Director James Morrison had gray hair, wore a plain black suit, and spoke in a calm, quiet voice that seemed completely unafraid. Admiral Kethvar, thank you for your message, Morrison began, as if he was responding to a dinner invitation. We have considered your offer carefully. Kethvar leaned forward in his chair. The human's tone was all wrong. Where was the fear? The begging? The desperate attempts to negotiate? We respectfully decline your terms, Morrison continued in the same polite voice. We will not give you our resources or our people. Instead, we suggest that you leave our solar system immediately. You have 72 hours to depart. Have a safe journey. The transmission ended. For several seconds, the bridge of the Death's Hand was completely silent. Kethvar's officers stared at their screens in confusion. In 3 centuries of conquest, no one had ever spoken to them like that. Then Kethvar began to laugh. It started as a low rumble in his throat and grew into a booming sound that echoed through the bridge. His officers joined in, their alien voices creating a chorus of amusement. Did that primitive just tell us to leave? Lieutenant Zethmar asked between laughs. I believe he did, Kethvar replied, wiping tears from his reptilian eyes. How wonderfully entertaining. It has been too long since a world provided such amusement before we destroyed it. The Admiral composed himself and opened a return channel to Earth. Human Morrison, your response is noted and appreciated. It will make excellent entertainment for my crew when we begin burning your cities. I do hope you will continue to provide such humor as we harvest your world. But even as Kethvar mocked the human response, something felt different about this encounter. Other worlds had shown fear, anger, or desperation. The humans showed none of these emotions. They seemed almost prepared. On the bridge of the Death's Hand, warning lights began flashing as the sensor operator called out readings. Admiral, detecting massive movement on the planet's surface. Multiple launches detected. Escape pods? Kethvar asked, his amusement fading slightly. Negative, sir. Large vessels. Hundreds of them. Cargo ships, passenger liners, industrial platforms. All heading toward the outer system at maximum speed. Kethvar studied the tactical display as red dots representing human ships spread across the screen like seeds in the wind. Life signs. None detected, Admiral. All vessels appeared to be unmanned. This was new. In 300 years of conquest, Kethva had never seen anything like it. Some worlds tried to evacuate their population, but they always filled their ships with refugees. These human vessels were empty. Perhaps their technology is more primitive than we thought, suggested Zethmar. Maybe they cannot support life during long space voyages. Possible, Kethva mused, but doubt crept into his voice. Something about this situation felt wrong, like walking into a room where the furniture had been moved just slightly. Below them, Earth cities began going dark. New York's lights faded first, then London, then Tokyo. One by one, the bright spots that marked human civilization disappeared until the planet looked cold and lifeless. Are they abandoning their world? Another officer asked. Kethva had no answer. In all his experience, no species had ever responded to the hegemony's arrival by simply leaving. It made no tactical sense. If the humans wanted to flee, why not negotiate for more time? Why not try to bargain for safe passage? Admiral, your orders. Kethva stared at the dark planet below and the spreading cloud of human ships moving toward the edge of the solar system. Every instinct told him this was wrong, but he could not identify the threat. Signal the fleet, he finally ordered. We pursue the fleeing vessels and destroy them. Then we will claim what remains of their world. As the hegemony ships spread out to chase the human vessels, Kethva felt something he had not experienced in decades. For the first time in 300 years of conquest, Admiral Kethva was uncertain. Admiral Kethva watched his tactical screen as 60 hours passed since the human deadline began. The strange behavior of the humans continued to puzzle him. The fleeing ships had spread across the outer solar system like scattered seeds, but something about their movement patterns bothered him. Report on the human vessels, he ordered his sensor officer. Lieutenant Zethmar studied his readings with growing confusion. Sir, we have tracked over 2,000 human ships moving toward the edge of their system. All appear to be civilian craft. Cargo haulers, passenger ships, mining vessels, transport barges. And their destination? Unknown, Admiral. They seem to be positioning themselves in random locations throughout the outer system. Some have stopped near gas giants. Others drift near asteroid fields. There is no pattern we can understand. Kethva frowned. Random positioning made no sense for an evacuation. Fleeing refugees would head for the nearest habitable world or try to reach allies. These humans were doing neither. What about life signs? Still none detected, sir. Every single vessel reads as completely empty of biological life. This troubled Kethva more than he wanted to admit. In 3 centuries of conquest, he had learned to read the behavior of terrified species. Fear made people predictable. They either fought desperately, ran to safety, or tried to hide. The humans were doing something else entirely. Perhaps they are decoys, suggested Commander Vorth AK from the weapons station. Empty ships meant to confuse us while their real population escapes elsewhere. But escape to where? Kethva asked. Our sensors show no other ships leaving their system. No messages sent to other worlds. Nothing. Below them, Earth remained dark and silent. The great cities that had blazed with light now showed only cold emptiness. Satellite images revealed empty streets, abandoned vehicles, and buildings that looked like they had been carefully shut down rather than hastily evacuated. Sir, called the communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the human government. Kethva straightened in his chair. Put it through. The same unremarkable human appeared on screen. Director Morrison sat in what looked like the same simple office, wearing the same plain clothes. Behind him, the room was dimly lit but showed no signs of panic or emergency. Admiral Kethva, Morrison said in his calm voice, I wanted to check on your departure preparations. You now have 12 hours remaining to leave our system. The human's composure was unsettling. His world appeared abandoned, his people scattered or hidden, yet he spoke like someone in complete control of the situation. Human Morrison, Kethva replied, your people seem to have fled like frightened animals. Yet you remain. Are you planning to face the might of the hegemony alone? Morrison smiled slightly. Admiral, I think there may be some misunderstanding about what you are seeing. Our people have not fled. They have simply moved to more appropriate positions. Appropriate for what? For what comes next? The transmission ended before Kethva could respond. The Admiral stared at the empty screen, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with this entire situation. Sir, the sensor officer called out urgently, detecting new activity from the human ships. Kethva turned to his tactical display. The scattered human vessels were moving again, but not away from the system. They were changing position, forming what looked like a loose sphere around the inner planets. Are they surrounding us? Commander Vorthake asked with a laugh. Do these primitives think their cargo ships can threaten a hegemony battle fleet? But Kethvar was not laughing. The human ships were positioning themselves with mathematical precision. This was not random movement. This was coordination on a scale that suggested advanced planning and communication systems. Run detailed scans on those vessels, he ordered. I want to know exactly what we are looking at. The sensor readings that came back made no sense. The human ships registered as civilian craft according to their power signatures and hull configurations. But there were anomalies. Small variations in mass distribution. Unusual energy readings from what should have been cargo holds. Subtle differences in their engine emissions. Admiral, Zethmar reported, something is strange about these ships. They appear to be civilian vessels, but the readings do not match exactly. What kind of differences? The mass readings suggest they are carrying cargo, but we cannot identify what kind. The energy signatures show they are powered up beyond what civilian ships normally require. And sir, they are all maintaining perfect formation despite being scattered across millions of kilometers. Perfect formation across millions of kilometers meant communication systems and coordination abilities that no civilian fleet should possess. It meant planning and preparation that suggested these ships were not running in panic. It meant the humans had been ready for this encounter. Kethvar felt a chill run down his scaled spine. Signal the fleet. All ships are to move to combat readiness immediately. Sir. Vorthake looked confused. Against civilian cargo ships. Commander, in 300 years of conquest, I have learned to recognize when something is wrong. Everything about this situation is wrong. Kethvar stood from his command chair. These humans are not behaving like a conquered species. They are behaving like... He stopped, unwilling to complete the thought. Like what, Admiral? Kethvar stared at the tactical display showing thousands of human ships positioned throughout the solar system. Each one was exactly where it needed to be for some purpose he could not yet understand. Like predators. The bridge fell silent as his officers absorbed this possibility. The idea that primitive humans could pose a threat to the mighty hegemony seemed impossible. Yet the evidence was building that something was terribly wrong with their assumptions. Orders, Admiral? Kethvar made his decision. Signal all ships. We advance on the human homeworld immediately. Whatever game these humans are playing, we end it now. Full fleet advance. Maximum speed. As the hegemony ships moved toward Earth, none of them noticed that the scattered human vessels had begun to converge on their position with perfect timing. The trap was about to close. Commander William Hayes stood in the control room of what looked like an ordinary cargo ship called Peaceful Trader. For the past 2 days, his vessel had drifted silently near Jupiter's largest moon, appearing to be just another abandoned human ship fleeing the alien invasion. But appearances could be deadly. Admiral Thompson sends word, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park. All hunter units are in position. We are cleared for Phase 3. Hayes nodded and walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew prepared for the moment they had trained for their entire lives. None of them looked like soldiers. They wore the simple clothes of cargo workers and civilian spacers. But each person on this ship was a veteran warrior. Attention all hands, Hayes announced over the ship's communication system. This is it. Show them what humans do to bullies. He pressed a single red button on his command console. The transformation was beautiful and terrifying. External panels fell away from the Peaceful Trader like a flower opening its petals. What had looked like cargo containers revealed themselves as missile launchers. The ship's simple hull split open to show plasma cannons and rail guns. The cargo bay doors opened to release a swarm of attack drones that moved like angry wasps. Across the solar system, 200 other civilian ships underwent the same transformation simultaneously. Admiral Kethvar was reviewing tactical reports when his sensor officer screamed in alarm. Admiral! The human cargo ships. They are changing. Kethvar spun to look at his tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. Every red dot representing a human civilian vessel had suddenly grown larger and brighter. What had been weak civilian signatures now showed as military-grade weapon platforms. Impossible, he whispered. Our sensors would have detected military ships. Sir, they were not military ships 60 seconds ago. They have somehow converted from civilian craft to warships. Before Kethvar could process this information fully, the humans attacked. The first salvo hit his fleet like the fist of an angry god. Weapons that should not have existed tore through hegemony shields as if they were made of paper. Plasma-wrapped metal slugs punched holes through ship hulls that had survived battles across the galaxy. Missiles that seemed to think for themselves dodged every defensive shot and found weak points with surgical precision. Return fire. Kethvar shouted over the chaos of his bridge. All ships, return fire immediately. But the human ships moved like nothing the hegemony had ever encountered. They did not fight like desperate refugees or primitive warriors. They fought like a perfectly coordinated military force that had studied hegemony tactics for decades. Every time a hegemony ship tried to target a human vessel, two others would appear from different angles. When the aliens tried to retreat to regroup, they found their escape routes blocked by more human ships. The scattered positioning that had seemed random now revealed itself as a carefully planned trap. Admiral, Commander Vorthake called from his burning weapon station, "We have lost 6 ships in the first minute of combat. These humans have weapons we have never seen before." But the real surprise was yet to come. Lieutenant Zethmar looked up from his sensor station with terror in his reptilian eyes. "Sir, we have new contacts. Multiple ships rising from the human planet itself." Kethvar turned his attention to Earth, expecting to see a few hidden defense platforms emerging from the dark cities below. Instead, he watched in horror as the planet's surface came alive. The ground around London erupted as massive weapon platforms rose from beneath the Thames River. The Nevada desert in America opened like a giant door to reveal missile silos that stretched for miles underground. From the Australian outback, enormous rail guns emerged that were larger than most hegemony cruisers. The dark cities had not been abandoned. They had been turned into fortress positions. "All stations report ready," came a calm female voice over the human communication channels. "This is Admiral Rebecca Thompson commanding Earth Defense. Welcome to our home, Admiral Kethvar. We hope you enjoy your stay." The planet's surface blazed with defensive fire as humanity revealed the truth. Earth was not a helpless world waiting to be conquered. Earth was the largest military fortress ever constructed, with weapons hidden beneath every major city and defensive systems that made it look like a metal porcupine. Captain Daniel Parker commanded the primary Earth defense grid from a bunker buried 2 miles beneath Geneva. He watched his screens fill with enemy contacts and smiled coldly. "All defense stations, you are weapons free," he announced to his crews. "These bastards wanted tribute. Let's give them what they deserve." The space around Earth became a killing field. Hegemony ships found themselves caught between the hidden human fleet and the planet's surface defenses. Every direction they turned brought new weapons fire from positions they had not known existed. Kethvar watched his proud fleet being torn apart by enemies who should not have existed. His flagship shuddered under repeated hits from human weapons that cut through hegemony armor like it was made of cloth. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his bridge crew. "They are primitives. We detected no advanced technology on their world." "Admiral," Zethmar replied with a shaking voice, "I do not think they are primitives. I think they have been pretending to be primitives." The terrible truth was becoming clear. The humans had not been surprised by first contact. They had been waiting for it. Every civilian ship had been a disguised warship. Every city had been a hidden fortress. Every human citizen had been a soldier preparing for this exact moment. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," reported the communications officer. Admiral Thompson's face appeared on the main screen. She wore a crisp military uniform and her eyes were as cold as space itself. "Admiral Kethvar, this is your only warning. Surrender immediately, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet. You have 60 seconds to decide." Kethvar stared at the human woman who had somehow turned his routine conquest into a nightmare. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders while their ship died around them. For the first time in 3 centuries, a hegemony admiral faced the possibility of total defeat. Colonel Elizabeth Carter moved through the wreckage of what had once been the hegemony's most powerful battle group. Her ship, the Iron Fist, prowled between the floating debris like a shark hunting wounded prey. Pieces of alien warships drifted past her viewports, some still glowing with internal fires. "Contact bearing 32 Mark 7, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Michael Foster. Hegemony cruiser attempting to escape toward the edge of the system." Carter studied the fleeing alien ship on her screen. It was damaged, trailing atmosphere and debris, but still trying to reach the hyperspace jump point that would let it escape to warn other hegemony fleets. "Negative on the escape," Carter said coldly. "No one leaves until we are finished with them. Foster, deploy the web." The fleeing alien ship suddenly found itself caught in a field of energy that made hyperspace travel impossible. Around it, Human vessels emerged from stealth like nightmares made real. Each ship bore weapons that the aliens had never seen before, weapons that had been designed specifically to counter hegemony technology. The battle that followed was quick and brutal. The alien cruisers' weapons, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, barely scratched the human ship's armor. Within minutes, the proud hegemony vessel was nothing more than expanding gas and metal fragments. Target destroyed, Foster reported. That makes 15 enemy ships eliminated in this sector. Carter nodded with satisfaction. Signal Admiral Thompson. Sector 7 is clear. We are moving to support Captain Wilson's group. As her ship turned toward the next battle, Carter allowed herself a moment to think about how this day had begun. The aliens had arrived expecting to find a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, they had discovered that humanity had been preparing for this encounter for 40 years. The truth was simpler than the aliens could imagine. Humanity had detected hegemony communications decades ago through deep space monitoring stations. While other species waited in ignorance for the tribute fleets to arrive, humans had spent 2 generations turning their entire civilization into a weapon. Every colony ship that had left Earth in the past 40 years had been a disguised warship. Every trade route had been a supply line for hidden military bases. Every human citizen had been trained as a soldier since childhood, waiting for the day when the hegemony finally found Earth. 300 light-years away from the battle raging around Earth, Captain Robert Sullivan commanded a different kind of human fleet. His ships had been traveling through hyperspace for days, timing their arrival to coincide with the hegemony's attack on humanity's home world. The Corvani system had been paying tribute to the hegemony for over 200 years. The blue-skinned Corvani people had long ago given up hope of freedom, accepting their role as slaves to alien masters. Their orbital defense platforms were run by hegemony overseers, and their cities were filled with alien tax collectors who took whatever they wanted. But today, everything changed. Sullivan's fleet emerged from hyperspace without warning, appearing around the Corvani home world like ghosts materializing from the void. The human ships immediately began broadcasting on all frequencies, their message reaching every Corvani ear on the planet and in space. "This is Captain Sullivan of the Terran Space Force," his voice echoed across the system. "The age of tribute is over. We are here to teach you how to be free." The hegemony garrison in the Corvani system numbered 50 warships, more than enough to control the peaceful blue-skinned aliens. But they had never faced human technology or human tactics. The battle was over in 30 minutes. Sullivan stood on his bridge watching the last hegemony ship surrender, its weapons destroyed and its crew begging for mercy. Around the Corvani homeworld, the orbital tribute collection stations burned like funeral pyres, their alien overseers either dead or captured. "Signal the Corvani government," Sullivan ordered his communications officer. "Tell them they are free. Also tell them that we will teach them how to fight if the hegemony ever returns." Back in Earth's solar system, Admiral Kethvar huddled in the ruins of his flagship's bridge. His proud uniform was torn and bloody, his scales blackened by smoke and fire. Around him, the few surviving members of his crew worked desperately to keep life support functioning. Through the cracked viewports, he could see human ships moving between the wreckage of his fleet like scavengers picking over a battlefield. But these scavengers were not looting the dead. They were rescuing survivors and taking prisoners. Admiral Rebecca Thompson's face appeared on his damaged communication screen. Her expression was hard but not cruel, like a judge delivering a verdict. "Admiral Kethvar, you will surrender your remaining ships immediately," she said in a voice that left no room for argument. "Any vessel that attempts to flee or fight will be destroyed." Kethvar looked around his ruined bridge at officers who had conquered star systems but now cowered like frightened children. His mighty fleet, which had seemed invincible just hours ago, was scattered wreckage floating in the void. "How?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. "How did primitives defeat the hegemony?" Thompson's expression softened slightly, not with sympathy but with something like pity. "Admiral, we stopped being primitives the day we learned you existed. For 40 years, every human child has grown up knowing that monsters lived among the stars. We have spent 4 decades preparing for this moment." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You taught us what we needed to become. Every world you conquered showed us your methods. Every species you enslaved revealed your weaknesses. You created us, Admiral. We are what happens when you threaten humanity." Kethvar closed his reptilian eyes, finally understanding the magnitude of his failure. The humans had not simply defeated his fleet. They had defeated the entire concept of the hegemony's invincibility. "What happens now?" he asked. Thompson's smile was cold as winter. "Now you get to deliver a message to the rest of your empire. You get to tell them that the galaxy has new rules, and humanity is going to enforce them. As human boarding parties prepared to take control of the surviving hegemony ships, HFY realized that his defeat was just the beginning. The humans were not just defending their world. They were starting a war that would reshape the entire galaxy. Admiral HFY knelt on the cold metal floor of what had once been his flagship's bridge. His hands were bound with restraints that burned like liquid fire against his scaled skin. Around him, the wreckage of his command center told the story of humanity's crushing victory. Admiral Rebecca Thompson stood before him, her crisp blue uniform unmarked despite the hours of brutal space combat. Behind her, human soldiers guarded the few surviving members of HFY's crew. The aliens who had once ruled the galaxy now looked like broken prisoners of war. "You were supposed to be primitives," HFY whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. "Our scouts reported a backwards world with simple technology." Thompson nodded slowly. "We were primitives, Admiral. 40 years ago, when our deep space monitoring stations first detected your communications. That was the day everything changed for humanity." She gestured toward the tactical display that still showed the systematic destruction of hegemony forces throughout the solar system. Red symbols marked the locations where proud alien warships had met their end. "Every world you conquered gave us another lesson in your methods," Thompson continued. "Every species you enslaved showed us your weaknesses. Every tribute fleet that left your territory carried information we needed to understand how to defeat you." HFY stared at the human admiral with growing horror. "You have been watching us for decades." "Learning from you," Thompson corrected. "You were excellent teachers, Admiral. You showed us that the galaxy was ruled by force, so we became the strongest force in the galaxy. You showed us that survival required deception, so we became masters of deception. You created us." Thompson activated the communication system, and cameras focused on HFY's defeated form. The transmission would reach every corner of hegemony space, carrying a message that would change everything. "You will speak," Thompson commanded. "You will tell your empire exactly what happened here." HFY looked into the camera with the dignity of a predator who had finally met something more dangerous than himself. When he spoke, his words carried across thousands of star systems to reach every hegemony fleet and every enslaved world. "To all hegemony forces receiving this transmission, this is Admiral HFY of the Tribute Fleet Death's Hand." His voice cracked with emotion. "Our fleet is destroyed. Our ships are scattered wreckage. The humans have ended our reign over this sector of space." He paused, struggling with words he had never thought he would speak. "The age of tribute is over. The Terrans have shown us that our empire is not invincible. Our weapons cannot match theirs. Our tactics are useless against their strategies. They have turned our own strengths against us." Thompson watched as the broken admiral delivered humanity's message to the galaxy. On worlds across hegemony space, alien commanders would soon learn that their most successful tribute fleet had been completely destroyed by a species they had considered primitive. "The humans are not what they appear to be," HFY continued. "They are not a newly discovered species. They have been preparing for us for decades. Every ship in their fleet was designed to counter our technology. Every weapon they possess was built to exploit our weaknesses." The admiral's scaled hands trembled as he spoke the words that would terrify the hegemony leadership. "They are coming for all of you. The humans are not content to defend their world. They plan to free every enslaved species, to destroy every tribute fleet, to tear down everything we have built." His voice became barely a whisper. "My advice to all hegemony forces, run while you still can." The transmission ended, but Thompson was not finished. She opened a new channel that reached the command centers of human fleets throughout the galaxy. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Thompson. Phase 1 is complete. Earth is secure and the galaxy now knows we exist. Phase 2 begins immediately." The responses came from dozens of different star systems as human ships revealed their positions across hegemony space. Captain Sullivan reporting from the Corvani system. "Local hegemony garrison destroyed. The Corvani people are free and eager to learn how to fight." Major Watson reporting from the Zephyr colonies. "Tribute collectors eliminated. Local population is requesting human military advisors." Commander Hayes from the Outer Rim. 3 hegemony supply depots captured intact. "We have enough alien technology to reverse engineer their entire weapons program." Thompson smiled as report after report confirmed what she had hoped. While the hegemony had focused their attention on conquering Earth, human strike forces had quietly infiltrated dozens of their tributary worlds. The message was clear: humanity had not simply defended their home. They had launched a coordinated attack across the entire galaxy. Colonel Elizabeth Carter's voice came through the communication system from her position near Jupiter. "Admiral, what about enemy forces that surrender? Do we accept their capitulation?" Thompson's expression grew cold as she remembered the countless worlds the hegemony had destroyed, the billions of beings they had enslaved, the species they had driven to extinction in their endless hunger for tribute. "Colonel, we came here to settle a debt 40 years in the making. We will accept surrender, but the tribute system ends today. Every enslaved world will be freed. Every tribute fleet will be disbanded. Every hegemony military installation will be destroyed or captured." She paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry her words to human forces across the galaxy. "Make it very, very clear to any alien commanders who wish to surrender, the old galaxy is dead. We are building a new one, and humanity will ensure that it is built on freedom instead of slavery." As human ships began disappearing into hyperspace, carrying liberation to the farthest corners of hegemony territory, Earth turned its face toward the stars. No longer was it humanity's hidden homeworld. Now it served as the capital of a new kind of empire, one that demanded not tribute but the freedom of every thinking being in the galaxy. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of humanity had begun.